NEC Section 430.102b2 addresses the requirements for disconnecting means for motors where the motor and its driven machinery are not in sight from the controller location. This section mandates that the installation be provided with a disconnecting means that includes provisions for locking in the open position. This disconnecting means must be located at a spot that is readily accessible but outside of the guarded area. The purpose of this requirement is to ensure the safety of personnel working on or near electrical equipment, particularly motors and their associated machinery. When a motor and its machinery are not visible from the controller, there is a risk that someone might inadvertently activate the controller while maintenance or other work is being performed on the motor or machinery. This could result in serious injury or even death. To mitigate this risk, the NEC requires a disconnecting means that can be locked in the open position. This ensures that the motor cannot be energized while someone is working on it. The disconnecting means must be readily accessible, meaning that it must be easy to reach and operate. It must also be located outside of the guarded area, which is the area around the motor and machinery that is considered to be hazardous. This ensures that personnel can safely operate the disconnecting means without being exposed to electrical hazards. In a scenario where a 480 volts, 3-phase machine-mounted disconnect is located in the side of the enclosure it feeds and the front door is not interlocked with the disconnect, it is necessary to evaluate if the placement of the disconnect and the accessibility to it when the door is open is compliant with the NEC, specifically Section 430.102b2. The key concern here is the visibility of the disconnect and its accessibility in relation to the machinery it controls and the safety of personnel working on the equipment. The requirement of having a disconnecting means that is readily accessible and lockable aims to protect individuals from electrical hazards during maintenance or servicing. Firstly, if the disconnect is not visible when the front door of the enclosure is opened, this raises a significant safety concern. The inability to see the disconnect immediately upon opening the enclosure door means that a person entering the enclosure might not be immediately aware of the power status of the machinery. This lack of awareness increases the risk of accidental contact with live parts, leading to potential electrical shock or other injuries. Secondly, the absence of an interlock between the front door and the disconnect further compounds the safety issue. An interlock system ensures that the machinery is de-energized when the door is opened, preventing access to live components. Without this interlock, the machinery could still be energized even with the door open, creating a hazardous situation for anyone inside the enclosure. To comply with NEC Section 430.102b2 in this situation, several corrective measures can be taken. One option is to interlock the front door with the disconnect. This can be achieved through a mechanical or electrical interlock system. When the door is opened, the interlock automatically trips the disconnect to the off position, de-energizing the machinery. This ensures that the equipment is in a safe state before anyone enters the enclosure. Another approach is to relocate the front door to a position where the disconnect is visible when the door is opened. This allows personnel to immediately see the disconnect and verify the power status of the machinery before entering the enclosure. If relocating the door is not feasible, a third option is to install a remote disconnect. This involves placing a disconnecting means outside the guarded area, readily accessible to personnel but not within the hazardous zone. This remote disconnect should also have provisions for locking in the open position to ensure that the machinery cannot be inadvertently energized while someone is working on it. In summary, the situation described does present a violation of the NEC if the disconnect is not visible when the front door is opened and there is no interlock system in place. To ensure compliance and prioritize safety, it is essential to implement one of the corrective measures outlined above, such as installing an interlock, relocating the door, or installing a remote disconnect. The National Electrical Code provides specific guidelines regarding the placement and accessibility of disconnecting means for motors and machinery. The general requirements for motor disconnects are outlined in Article 430, which covers motors, motor circuits, and controllers. The specific section relevant to the situation described is NEC Section 430.102, which addresses the location of disconnecting means. This section is crucial for ensuring that motors can be safely de-energized for maintenance or other purposes. NEC Section 430.102 covers the disconnecting means for motors and appliances, stating that each disconnecting means must be located within sight from the controller. The controller is defined as the device used to start and stop the motor. This requirement ensures that the person operating the disconnect can visually confirm that the motor has stopped running before performing any work on it. In situations where the motor is not within sight of the controller, NEC Section 430.102b provides additional requirements. Specifically, NEC Section 430.102b states that for a motor rated over 100 horsepower, the disconnecting means must be lockable in the open position or located in a separate room or enclosure that is accessible only to qualified persons. This requirement aims to prevent unauthorized or accidental re-energization of the motor while it is being serviced. NEC Section 430.102b2 addresses the situation where the motor and its driven machinery are not within sight from the controller location. In this case, the installation must be provided with a disconnecting means that can be locked in the open position and is readily accessible but located outside of the guarded area. This provision is particularly relevant to the scenario described, where the disconnect is mounted on the side of the enclosure and not visible when the door is opened. The NEC also provides guidelines on the type and rating of disconnecting means for motors. NEC Section 430.109 specifies that the disconnecting means must be a motor circuit switch rated in horsepower or a molded case circuit breaker. The disconnecting means must have an ampacity of at least 115% of the motor's full load current rating. This ensures that the disconnect can safely interrupt the motor's current without overheating or failing. In addition to the general requirements for motor disconnects, the NEC also includes specific requirements for disconnects used in hazardous locations. Article 500 through 516 covers hazardous locations, which are areas where flammable gases, vapors, or dust may be present. In these locations, the disconnecting means must be specifically approved for use in the hazardous environment. This typically means that the disconnect must be explosion-proof or intrinsically safe. The National Electrical Code requires that electrical equipment be installed in a neat and workmanlike manner. This requirement is outlined in NEC Section 110.12, which states that electrical equipment must be installed so that it is not exposed to physical damage. This includes ensuring that the equipment is properly supported and protected from moisture, dirt, and other contaminants. The NEC also requires that electrical equipment be accessible for maintenance and repair. NEC Section 110.26 specifies that sufficient access and working space must be provided around electrical equipment to allow for safe and easy maintenance. This includes providing adequate headroom and width, as well as ensuring that the equipment is not obstructed by other objects. In the context of motor disconnects, the NEC requirements for neat and workmanlike installation and accessibility are particularly important. The disconnect must be installed in a way that is both safe and easy to operate. This means that it must be mounted securely, protected from damage, and readily accessible to qualified personnel. The NEC also addresses the grounding of electrical equipment. Article 250 provides detailed requirements for grounding and bonding electrical systems. Grounding is the process of connecting electrical equipment to the earth, which provides a low impedance path for fault currents. This helps to protect people from electrical shock and to prevent damage to equipment. The NEC requires that all metal enclosures and raceways be grounded. This includes the enclosures for motor disconnects. The grounding conductor must be sized according to NEC Table 250.122, which is based on the size of the circuit conductors. In addition to grounding, the NEC also requires bonding of electrical equipment. Bonding is the process of connecting different metal parts together to create a low impedance path for fault currents. This helps to reduce the risk of voltage differences between different parts of the equipment, which could cause electrical shock. The NEC requires that all metal enclosures and raceways be bonded together. This includes the enclosures for motor disconnects. The bonding conductor must be sized according to NEC Table 250.102, which is based on the size of the circuit conductors. Overall, the NEC provides a comprehensive set of requirements for the installation and maintenance of motor disconnects. These requirements are designed to ensure the safety of personnel and to protect equipment from damage. By following the NEC guidelines, electrical contractors and maintenance personnel can help to create a safe and reliable electrical system. Consider a situation where a motor disconnect is installed in a manufacturing facility. The disconnect is used to energize a large motor that powers a conveyor belt. The conveyor belt is used to move products from one part of the factory to another. The motor disconnect is located in a small room next to the conveyor belt. The room is typically locked to prevent unauthorized access. One day, a maintenance worker needs to perform some repairs on the conveyor belt. Before starting the repairs, the worker goes to the room where the motor disconnect is located. The worker opens the door to the room and finds that the disconnect is not visible. The disconnect is located behind a stack of boxes. The worker has to move the boxes to get to the disconnect. After moving the boxes, the worker is able to access the disconnect. The worker turns the disconnect to the off position and locks it in place. The worker then proceeds to perform the repairs on the conveyor belt. In this situation, the location of the motor disconnect presents a safety hazard. The disconnect is not readily accessible and it is not visible from the point of work. This means that the worker has to take extra steps to de-energize the motor, which increases the risk of an accident. To improve the safety of the situation, the motor disconnect should be relocated to a more accessible location. The disconnect should also be visible from the point of work. This would allow the worker to quickly and easily de-energize the motor without having to move any obstacles. The NEC also requires that electrical equipment be labeled to identify its purpose. This includes labeling motor disconnects to indicate the equipment they control. The labels must be durable and legible, and they must be permanently attached to the equipment. In the context of motor disconnects, proper labeling is essential for ensuring that workers can quickly and easily identify the correct disconnect for the equipment they are working on. This helps to prevent accidental de-energization of the wrong equipment, which could cause a shutdown or create a safety hazard. The NEC provides specific requirements for the size and type of conductors used in electrical systems. Article 310 covers conductors for general wiring. The NEC requires that conductors be sized according to the ampacity of the circuit they are serving. The ampacity of a conductor is the maximum amount of current it can carry without overheating. The NEC provides tables that list the ampacities of different types of conductors based on their size, insulation, and installation method. In the context of motor disconnects, it is important to ensure that the conductors are properly sized to handle the motor's full load current. The conductors must also be protected from overcurrent by fuses or circuit breakers. The overcurrent protection devices must be sized according to the motor's nameplate rating and the requirements of NEC Section 430.52. The National Electrical Code is updated every 3 years to reflect changes in technology and industry best practices. It is important for electrical contractors and maintenance personnel to stay up to date on the latest version of the NEC to ensure that their work complies with the current standards. The NEC is available for purchase from the National Fire Protection Association (NFPA) and other sources. The NFPA also offers training courses and other resources to help people understand and comply with the NEC. The information provided here is for general guidance only and should not be considered a substitute for professional electrical advice. Always consult with a qualified electrician or electrical engineer before performing any electrical work. They can assess your specific situation and provide recommendations that comply with the NEC and other applicable codes and standards. The location of electrical equipment, including motor disconnects, is crucial for safety and accessibility. The NEC emphasizes the importance of providing adequate working space around electrical equipment to allow for safe operation and maintenance. NEC Section 110.26 outlines the requirements for working space, which includes minimum clearances for width, depth, and height. The working space requirements vary depending on the voltage of the equipment and the configuration of the surrounding area. In the context of motor disconnects, it is important to ensure that there is enough space around the disconnect to allow workers to safely operate it and perform maintenance tasks. This includes providing enough space to open the disconnect enclosure, access the terminals, and use tools. The working space must also be kept clear of obstructions such as boxes, equipment, and other materials. In addition to working space, the NEC also addresses the accessibility of electrical equipment. NEC Section 110.26 states that all electrical equipment must be readily accessible to qualified personnel. Readily accessible means that the equipment must be capable of being reached quickly for operation, renewal, or inspections without requiring those to whom ready access is requisite to climb over or remove obstacles or to resort to portable ladders, and so forth. In the context of motor disconnects, readily accessible means that the disconnect must be located in a place that is easy to reach and operate. The disconnect must not be blocked by obstacles or located in a locked room or enclosure without authorized access. The NEC also addresses the identification of electrical equipment. NEC Section 110.22 requires that all electrical equipment be marked with its purpose and rating. The markings must be durable and legible, and they must be located in a conspicuous place. In the context of motor disconnects, it is important to label the disconnect with the equipment it controls and its voltage and current rating. This helps to prevent accidental energization of the wrong equipment and ensures that the disconnect is properly sized for the motor it is serving.